Guys, we have multiple articles today talking about Marvel cancels Eternals 2, Ant-Man 4, and Captain Marvel 3. Let me tell you, that to me is music to my ear and also expected with how things have been going at Marvel after the bombastic flop that was The Marvels. No matter how much you defend that film, yes, I'm talking to you people who still think that the Marvels was good. You incels are just haters. I'm talking to you. No matter how much you defend that film, that movie was a gigantic flop, and there was no way Disney was going to be like, yeah, we're just gonna ignore those incels and those bigots and just move on and make a Captain Marvel. It was not going to happen. You cannot flop that hard and then just ignore the fans. The fans have spoken with their wallets that they are not interested in watching this MCU garbage. And I'm glad that Disney is listening. This is an article from Forbes. It says MCU report, no Eternals 2, Captain Marvel 3, Ant-Man 4, as Disney gets risk averse. I don't know if you noticed, these three films specifically, they have either a lot of diversity stuff or MCU stuff. For example, Eternals 2, that film, I don't know how they expected to drop all these huge heroes. Eternals had how many heroes in one movie? Like, I don't know, like 10? Right? I don't know. I'll put a clip here on screen and then you can try and count for themselves, because it's been a while since I watched that film. But there was no way you were going to introduce that many heroes into a movie. We've never heard of them. When you wonder why the Eternals did not help in the defeat of Thanos, they tell you, oh, it's because the Celestials told us that we cannot interfere in humans' conflict. The funny thing is that in the Eternals, the movie, they tell you that the Celestials could only be reborn if the population of the Earth reached a certain amount, and yet the work of Thanos was to reduce the population. So wouldn't it have made sense if they intervened with the whole Thanos thing so that the Celestials could be born? It's like the movie contradicted itself so hard. How could you tell us that the work of the Eternals was to keep humans safe so that when their population is big enough, Celestials can be reborn, and then Thanos comes into half the population and you're like, nope, we're not going to do that. But anyway, I digress. There was no way you were going to drop that many heroes onto our screen and then have a scare. But if you saw it for what it was, the Eternals was just meant to be a diversity thing, having a superhero who's gay, another one who's deaf, another one who's black. It was just meant, that movie was purely meant, apart from it being a badly written film, it was just meant for pure diversity, and there was no way that movie was going to have a future, because I think it's like the second worst movie. You can comment below and tell me. For me, I think the top three worst MCU movies are, of course, The Marvels, Eternals, and I think Thor 2. So yeah, there was no way that one was going to go anywhere. Ant-Man 3 was a joke. Ant-Man 3, how you can write such a film and expect it to go anywhere, and Cassie was one of the most annoying characters in that movie, with the way she was talking down to Ant-Man and being like, oh, you saved the world. You remember the dialogue when they were seated at the table having dinner, or when Cassie was being driven home by Ant-Man? One of the most annoying heroes. So this article from Forbes, it says Disney has previously been thought to be scaling back the MCU, which has recently become overloaded with underperforming films in theaters and vastly expensive shows on Disney Plus. Now we may be hearing what that will look like in practice. Insider Daniel Richman is reporting that Eternals is no longer in development, and other potential projects like a third Captain Marvel movie or fourth Ant-Man will not be pursued. This does not mean that we will not see them anywhere else. If, for example, we have, I don't know, Avengers Secret Wars or whatever nonsense, I have genuinely stopped caring about Marvel. I only still make content simply because I am a reaction review channel. But otherwise, Black Captain America and all these other projects, I am so disconnected. But however, it does not mean that just because these movies are discontinued, like Captain Marvel 3 or Ant-Man 5 or whatever, just because they've been discontinued just does not mean that we will not see these characters. We'll definitely see them again, probably in future Marvel films. It says here, if you've been tracking Marvel hits and misses, these three specifically may not come as a huge shock, as something Marvel does not want to invest in from here. All performed poorly, relatively speaking, among critics and at the box office. The three last films in question, Eternals, which got a 47%, Ant-Man, which got a 46%, and The Marvels, which got a 62%. I think The Marvels was probably the movie alarm bell that set all of this off, while the 200 million Secret Invasion was probably the show alarm instead. Here's the other thing. I think Marvel have become so bloody cocky to still think that they can still put out garbage that is flopping and people will still show up to watch. That is just, I don't know whether to call it hubris or just cockiness. It's just MCU began flopping as hard as, I think, from as far as when Black Widow was dropped. That's where MCU started going down. I mean, Spider-Man No Way Home was that one we can all agree that one was mostly good. But other than that, it's been downhill, whether it was shows on Disney Plus or the mainstream movies in cinema. So my question is this: how could you be flopping from that far back and then you're still releasing crap and then you still expect people to still show up and watch? Especially something like the Marvels. There are people who defend the Marvels and they say, well, if you had watched Miss Marvel and Secret Invasion and this and this other one, well, you would have enjoyed the film. You still expect me to care that much to go back and watch all that, especially Secret Invasion, which most people agree was just the worst of them all. Yeah, you still expect me to go back and watch all that crap so that I can enjoy MCU the Marvels? No, thank you. I think the Marvels was probably the movie alarm bell that set all this off, while the 200 million Secret Invasion was probably the show alarm instead. As much as I think both Eternals and the Marvels were underrated, given their performance, I can understand why sequels would not be pursued. No, they were not underrated. It's like, I don't know, it's like people experience like this viewer Stockholm syndrome. The Marvels was a bad movie. It had a lot of bad stuff. I mean, no matter how much you want to defend it, the villain was bad. That at least we can agree. The villain was like one of the worst MCU villains. So whenever your villain is trash, the movie is trash. Just think about any bad MCU film. The villain is trash, and typically that makes the movie trash. Whether it's Thor 2, whether it's Iron Man 3, whether it's any film. If the villain was trash, the film becomes trash. The only saving grace for the Marvels was Kamala Khan, and most people didn't even watch Miss Marvel. Anyway, here it says, however, I don't think it's wise for Marvel to just ditch Brie Larson's Captain Marvel. I heard Brie Larson herself is leaving the MCU, so I don't know what this article is saying, but anyway. And Imam Vellani's Kamala Khan should be given more to do. That's very true. Not less, given how great she is in the role. Yeah, she was the only saving grace for the Marvels. She's the only reason why you should watch that film. I don't see any other real reason for that film to exist. As for Ant-Man and the Wasp, they can show up as Avengers, I suppose, but Eternals is probably going to have to remain what could have been situation, and I would not expect to see them again. Yeah, Eternals was, in my opinion, it was just there for the diversity. It's not because it needs them to be diverse to tell a specific story. They're just diverse for the purposes of diverse and pandering to a larger audience. Glad that Disney is listening. Yet, give me your thoughts on this. Smash like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I just saw these articles and I just thought we should discuss. I've done videos discussing about how the Marvels really was going to be the point where Marvel realizes that they need to make a turnaround. I'll leave it here on screen and then I'll see you in the next one.